So I heard about Wildrose dogs back in the summer of 2016, and I reached out to him in November of 2016 and got on the waiting list for a puppy. And then in, I believe it was around May or June, they got a hold of me and told me that my dog was ready. So I drove to Oxford, Mississippi in July of 2017 and picked up my dog Gus. And I was super excited to go get him, and it's been a great ride having this dog. But today was one of the neater things that's happened to me in that whole journey. And I did a Zoom call with Mike Stewart, the founder and owner of Wildrose Labs and Wildrose International. And we had a great conversation. I hope that anybody that's into dogs, into business, into duplicating themselves, you are going to get an absolute kick out of this video. I had a lot of, I held Mike in pretty high regard before this call today, but after I got done talking to him, my level of admiration for this guy just went through the roof. So I'll quit jabbering and let you guys listen to Mike Stewart from Oxford, Mississippi, talk about his journey with his dogs for the last 50 years, and it's pretty awesome.
Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I've wanted to sit down and chat with you ever since I got my dog, and our paths have never crossed, but thank God for technology. We can do this today. So I've been looking forward to visiting with you for a long time.
That's great. It's an easy way to do it. I don't really know how it works, but it works. Yeah, I started in when I was in college at Ole Miss. I worked in retailing, which always gave me a flair for retailing that we do now in the store that you experienced while you were here. So I always enjoy the retail side. And then after college, I went into law enforcement with the city of Oxford, left there as a captain and became chief of police at Ole Miss. And I did that. Yeah, I did that for 18 years. And also I had a parallel career in the Navy with the Naval Investigator Service, now called NCIS. So I did that as well. And so I ended up with 2 retirements, one from the Navy and one from the police department. That gave me a leg up to start another career, which involved the dogs.
Yeah. When did Wildrose, when did that become a thing? When did you start doing that?
Well, Wildrose existed over a period of time, all the way back to the 1972 when I actually started training as well for the public. And I did it on the side when I was in police work and in college. Back when I was in college, I would get off work in retailing, hop on my motorcycle and ride to people's houses to solve problems with their dog. I was just the problem solver, you know. They could be running off, they could be jumping on people. They'd call me up and I'd spend a few days going to their house and doing consultant work. And then I had little classes when Kathy and I were married in town. I had little classes after work. That was a lot of fun. And it just migrated. I just did it on the side. Even when I was a little kid, my dad said, okay, you got to have a job. He was a horse trainer, and everybody on the farm had a job. So my job was to take care of the bird dogs. So I was teaching pointers to point and dogs to heel and lead and whoa and all those. And I still use those techniques today. Now, as of this morning, we were doing some warning work and steadying dogs, just like we did in the 1960s. So it sort of just evolved. It's not something I woke up one day and said I'm going to do. It just kept evolving. And after police work, the business was really taking off. And that was in the late 1998, 99. Wildrose is really taking off as a brand. It's getting the name out nationally. And so I had to go ahead and take retirement and just really drill down on the business. And so there's myself and one part-time kennelman was a student and one part-time healthcare worker that came in the afternoons to help me a little bit. That was it. And now we grew it into what Wildrose is today, Wildrose International. I had my own kennel back in the 1980s when Kathy and I lived at the end of a cul-de-sac. And I bought the lots at the end of the cul-de-sac and set up a kennel. But it required me to go somewhere every night to train. I was running beagles then for competition.
Oh,
And they were all my own dogs, and I'd sell puppies. That was it. I just raised some puppies and sell them. And I'd have a couple of started dogs. I'd get them started running rabbits and put them in the rabbit pen and get them started. And I'd sell this one, sell that one around. It's mainly a hobby. And they always say the best job to have is if you can take a passion that you have, a hobby that you really love doing, and can make a living doing it. That's the way to go. And it sort of just evolved into that. I ran cattle at the same time. I bought my property here at this location that you visited in 1988 because I had run out of room in that cul-de-sac. So I sold all that and bought this property, started developing it. And there wasn't even a drive in. It was just a cow pasture. So I started with some Angus cattle, and I raised those on the side just to keep the place eaten down, and started again with the beagles and outside training dogs. I had German Shepherds and Vizslas and Labs. And then I started getting more and more British Labs in from a kennel called Wildrose, and they were selling out. They were liquidating, and the people were buying the dogs and sending them to me for training house. I love these, the attitude of these little dogs and their drive and their game finding ability. So I said, this is a great way. I'm gonna buy that kennel and merge it with my existing operation and resalvage it, repurpose it. So I loaded, took my cattle trailers up there, and I started just loading the thing up. Every piece of equipment, drug it down here and reset the whole thing up into Oxford out of Grand Junction, Tennessee. And that was in 98, 99. And so then we started those dogs and started really building two different things. One is we wanted the bloodlines of the authentic British dog, importing them. So I reached out to a contact that I picked up on actually a note, and that became my partner, Nigel Carvel, out of Ireland. And we're still together today. That was in 1998. We're still working together as of today. Still important through him. He would find me the original genetics, send them over here. I would retrain them and sell them on. I'd retrain them, raise pups off of them, and the business just began to grow. And then we had to develop a training methodology. So that's our second really brand, which we call the Wildrose Way. So I had to come up with, there was the way people say to build a brand, and the way we really built this brand of dogs, which is a nationally registered trademark now as well, the gentleman's gun dog, is you find a niche, you find a problem, and you solve it. The problem was a lot of the dogs down in the deep south that the duck hunters were getting were coming out of the trial lines, and they were red hot. They were great dogs, but they were hard to handle. You know, you had to use e-collars on them, you had to use force fetch on them. They had tons and tons of drive, and that's the dogs I was running, and some bird dogs as well. And so that was not what the market was that I was finding. They wanted a companion dog, a dog that could go with a guy that was versatile, that could do ducks in the morning, quail in the afternoon, but yet come and watch the big screen TV with them at the family in the evening. They could turn it on, they could turn it off. A traveling companion, smaller in size, not hyper, a very disciplined type of dog. So we found that in the British dog is the genetic wise, a good natural game finding ability, good size, good temperament, trainability. They train them with no e-collars. We train them with no e-collars. We got rid of the e-collars. We got rid of the force fetch. And so we had to come up with a methodology that the clients can handle, which is the Wildrose Way. It's simplistic and only has a few moving parts in it. So a few things to know. And that suited these dogs very well. It's really a hybrid. It has bird dog in it. It has Spaniel work in it. It has Labrador work in it. It has British style, Irish style training, all rolled into one that I found that was going to be very effective for the dog of duality, a versatile hunting dog, a sporting dog for either adventure companion or sporting dog in the U.S. Well, we definitely came up with it because we found when people were picking up the dogs back in the 1990s, they had no idea what to do with it. And we'd get them back into training, and they had all these ingrained behaviors that we had to train out before we could put the good stuff in. So that's where we came up with everybody's not leaving, they're not touching the puppy until we give you a good dose of the Wildrose Way. That led to the book, retriever training for sporting dogs the Wildrose way. That led to the videos that led for 20 something years on DUTV, continuous since 2001. We've been on DUTV giving away the tips on how to have a proper shooting dog that is disciplined, quiet in the home. It's a great companion to hang out with. So you have to start with the genetics, but then you have to, I mean, you can have a good computer, but if you don't know how to run it, it's pretty much hopeless. So that's where the educational side came in. So we came up with what is the Wildrose philosophy? It's bring out the natural ability of the dog. We don't man make anything. It's all natural ability. Apply controls, stop to the whistle, recall, heel, work. And we do it in a low force, low stress way, and then train the owners. So the educational part of becoming a trainer at Wildrose, you have to have the mindset of a teacher. So you're teaching the dog, but you're also teaching them to handle it. It's not like I've got to win ribbons on Saturdays. We don't even go that direction. What we've got to do is make it a dog that the average handler can handle and be happy with. Yeah, it just didn't happen one day. It evolves. Those kinds of things. It's an evolution that continues, and the gathering of the tribe continues to join the trek. People drop out, others drop in, and you move forward. So one of the things is that when we were working on our brand, we had to come up with the branding aspect of it. That's where the Gentleman's Gun Dog came in. We had to define ourselves what we are. So that is a multi-purpose dog. Ducks in the morning, quail in the afternoon, come and watch the big screen TV. Then we developed other followers. They weren't hunters. So we created the adventure dog, prepared to go anywhere. So as these things happened, when we developed the product, which was the dog and the training methodology. The next thing we do is the brand identity, which is the dog. The brand identities, the colors, the images, the taste, the flavor of the experience. And then we had to become experiential. We had to say, okay, what are you going to do with this wonderful asset to your family? So join us, follow us, go with us here, go with us there. We created hunts in the Dakotas. We went to the Blackfly Bahamas. We took them on hikes in the mountains and hunts. We created the Wildrose Journal, which is now 20 something years old with over 23,000 followers with a 51% open rate. That's an online magazine. Of course, we do a little Instagram, Facebook, those kinds of things, of creating that tribe, that band of followers. But then we created the workshops to come. And that really created quite a joining. When you come and you learn together, have similar problems, and everybody's helping everybody versus having a competition where everybody's trying to win, we set up a philosophy as we're here to help. We're here to teach, we're here to nurture. And I think that was another piece of it. Besides reading the material, seeing the material, and get something in your inbox every other month, then you have places to go and things to do that you can join. You might not hunt, maybe you want to go on an adventure. So we had adventures in Aspen, we've had them in University of Colorado, we've had them in Northwest Arkansas, the Ozarks, we've had them in North Carolina. So we take people on these adventures and take them on planes, float trips, more activities to do. So once you get the dog and have the quote product, but have the dog, and then you start learning the methodology and you're teaching yourself and your families enjoying the experience of developing the dog together, then you have places to join others of a similar mind and a similar heart and a similar interest. And I think that is continuing to create an evolution of the tribe, the band of followers. First of those was Drake, the Ducks Unlimited mascot, and he was born in 2000. In 2001, we started with raising him on TV. So the idea was, we talked to Ducks Unlimited, and they said we need a good mascot on TV that the dog performs well for our host of TV. So I said, well, we can do that. And so we picked up the puppy out, and I said, I talked to them and I said, why don't we try to train this dog on TV segments? And this was 2001. They said, that's a good idea. So we started step by step how to train Drake, the DU dog. And he developed a following. And when he passed away it was a big deal. They published it in the magazine. We published it on the TV show. We had tons of emails that I followed. I trained my dog right along with Drake. All these years, we've been a follower of Drake. I trained my dog, and he's done these wonderful things. It was just really emotional when Drake passed. But we knew he was getting older, and we had set up the second dog, which was Deke. So Deke came on along, and Deke's sister trained along with him. We started off as two pups together. And I showed him in crate training, house breaking. We did the whole scenario again. Deke started with the puppyhood, but then we did a little bit more dog duality. We did some quails, some doves, and some pheasant. With Drake, we did some dove, but Drake started as a pup and ran all the way to we won the Irish International. We took a U.S. team abroad, and we were the first one and the last one, as far as I know, to ever win a competition where there's a team trial, if you will. Huh. So we had the U.S. gun dog team, and we beat out all the European teams, and he was on that team. And that really was the final step. And he had a few more shows after that, but that was all the way from one point all the way to that point. You could follow that dog. If you had all those films, you could train the dog. Huh. So basically what they said was, well, we can't use those films and sell them. So I created the 2 DVDs that we have now, one for upland, one for waterfowl. And they now can downloadable at my website, uklive.com. And basically they're repeats of the shows that I produced myself.
Huh.
The other thing is the book is followed those shows. I took every show that I produced with Drake and I spread it around my cabin in Arkansas, and I grouped them. And then I wrote that book following that script. So that book is the training manual that was based on those TV shows on how we created Drake the DU dog.
Interesting.
So we've had 2 mascots, recognizable mascots. One was Drake, and the following was Deke. I really don't know.
Yeah.
If you looked at the pen map when you're here, we have multiple dogs in all 50 states, every Canadian province, Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, Peru, Bolivia, Taiwan. And now we spread into other locations in the country, and they have their own pen map going. North Carolina, we've gone up the eastern seaboard now. Texas, Wildrose, Texas. Texas is our #1 state for dogs. So if you look at Dallas, it looks like this. And you look at Houston, it looks like this. And look over at Austin, it looks like this. Just big, huge, massive clumps of dogs. So everybody picks up a dog here that picks up their puppy or started or finished dog, they put a pin in those maps.
Yeah.
So it just continues to grow. And I really haven't tracked them since the 1990s, how many dogs are actually out there. The neat part about it is, in my position, we've been in it for decades. We just celebrated last year our 50th anniversary. Wow. That's 50 years of continuous service since 1972. Given that, we've gone through generations of dogs.
Sure.
I can go back to Drake and his era, and then I go into whiskey, and then I go into the whiskey era, Deke's era, and now Deke's son Gus is producing in his era. So there's layers of these dogs of the same genetics. They go back 4 generations. Now we're looking at the 5th generation. Generational certifications on health schemes and trainability. So that guy, I can tell you that they go back decades. The other thing that's interesting is the families that come through. They're coming back now. The 2nd generation of the families are coming back. You know, the guy sitting there with his little kid, little youngster, maybe 2 kids, his wife's there, and then we're getting our pup. And he said, I was raised with a Wildrose dog, and I want them to help me. So that's real meaningful to me. I've been around a long time. So when I see this generational thing going in the clients, not just the dogs, but the clients, that's pretty special. We've got some families with 4 and 5 Wildrose dogs. The dad has them, maybe 2, and the 2 sons have them, and so on. It spreads down that way.
My dog was from Brog Dog Billy and Tess, I think, or Jess. I can't remember. It was either Tess or Jess, but that's who Gus came from. And a friend of mine told me about Wildrose, and so I looked you guys up online, and I really thought, like, I'm going to be the only guy around that has one of these dogs. And I came back, and one of the guys that I played golf with at the Powderhorn was a Wildrose dog guy. I didn't even know, because I asked when I was down there, does anybody around me have a Wildrose dog? And Kathy got back to me and she goes, yeah, this guy named Tommy Boyle does. And I was like, well, shit, I play golf with Tommy.
There you are. So it's a small world. It is a group. It is a tribe. It's a clan. It's a cult. And it's a band of followers. And they're all over the United States, scattered around. And people do get together within different regions. And so that's how and I can tell you that's where the ideas over the evolution of the company. In 2017, we started thinking about how we can continue to grow, but maintain the quality of services. So, if you start growing and just breeding puppies, you become a puppy mill. If you start trying to train too many dogs, you lose the quality. And not only the quality of the dog that you're turning out, but maybe the quality of the experience that you're providing. So you can turn out a lot of dogs like a gin mill if you got layers of training, but you might trainers that are turning them out. You can shuck them out like a pump shotgun, but you're not providing that experiential element that we're looking for: product, brand, the experience. So how do we manage that? So we had this opportunity pop up in Dallas, Texas. One of our clients said, I bought this Dallas Hunting and Fishing Club and I'm going to develop it, and I want a Wildrose kennel there. So we began to consider, how could we have a regional kennel in Dallas, which is as I said, our #1 state. And that property dates back to 1885. It's the oldest shooting grounds west of the Mississippi River. So it's got enormous history. And now it's developed into a wonderful thing. We've got a full service kennel there with sporting dog boarding, training. We've got a separate operation in Enos that does all the puppy operation, very upscale, insulated solar panels. The e-collar, I mean, not the e-collar, but the environmental group would love this place. It's got solars all over the place that feed the batteries. It's just really, really high tech. So we're really, really proud that Dallas came out in 2017. It's owned by Cameron Phillips. And I said, okay, what we're going to do is create virtually a licensing operation, much like a franchise. And we're going to split ourselves off over there. So we're going to have puppies, started, finished dogs, and training there, providing full services the way we do it in Oxford. We had to duplicate ourselves. And that sounded really, really good. And it would cause me to have to start training between both those locations, make sure the quality's there and the experience is similar. Immediately after that, we had an opportunity to open in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is now north of Hillsboro in Mebane, North Carolina. Hillsboro is a quaint little village, has a lot of great history there, but you're basically 30 miles north of Chapel Hill. So that is a huge growth area in that Raleigh-Durham area. So we opened there in 2017 as well, but they really got going in 2018. And that gave down the road, that gave one of my senior trainers here, Stephen Lucius, an opportunity to become an owner. So he was able to move from senior trainer here to actually owning a share of Wildrose. So that gave us growth within our ranks, that people could go and do things and actually become an owner someday. So that this year they have doubled in their size. They have just added another wing of a wonderful facility there, and it's doing very, very well. Last year we opened in Kohler, Wisconsin. Excuse me, I said North Carolina. Kohler, Wisconsin. That's our fourth full unit that we brought online up there. And they have their starter mama dogs, their starter trainers, there's dogs in training there, and it's doing really well as well. Wisconsin was always a real popular area with us, the Ducks Unlimited, the World of Ducks, and the Ducks Unlimited Great Outdoor Festival. It's a very, very strong market for Wildrose. And Kathy and I still operate the kennel in Northwest Arkansas for river training in the winter and summer training in Colorado at 9,000 feet for river training.
Where in Colorado is it?
It's just north of Buena Vista and south of Leadville along the Arkansas River. And it's a wonderful ranch owned by one of my best friends and clients. And he said, come on out. I've got the space. We built a great kennel there. It's got aspen all around it. The barn that's there is really nostalgic. It dates to 1880. So that's parallel to the kennel. So it's got a lot of atmosphere. We're absolutely on the Colorado Trail. The Colorado Trail used to run past the kennel. Now, they moved it off the private property now to down the hill. But the kennel is actually where I parked my truck, was on the Colorado Trail.
No kidding.
Huge amount of history. And at 9,000 feet, it's much cooler there than it is in Mississippi or Texas. So I can take finished dogs out there and work them very hard in cold water. We have no venomous snakes at all. So you can get them out there and put them in the roughest cover. I can get them quartering and flushing upland, and they can come back in September red hot, ready to go, which was very difficult to do in the heat of the South. Well, that's like saying you got one kid's your favorite. That's dangerous. That's dangerous waters to get into. Each one of them that have traveled with me when we were on the road doing the shows became very, very special. Angus was the most loyal dog you could ever imagine. Whiskey had the best, and Drummer both had enormous personalities, big, crowd-pleasing personalities. Drummer was always pulling shenanigans in front of the crowd, which infuriated me, which the crowd loved. So there was always these special relationships I had with my pack and favorite dogs. Tommy was the quiet, easygoing dog. Drake, of course, he was a dog that would not do anything but once. He got bored very, very quickly. So I would tell him on camera, I said, look, you got to get this in one shot, because he's not going to do it again. He's going to look really good on the first one. And he said, I got this. I'm not doing it again. He was like Clint Eastwood, one act, one take. That's all he was. And the only way you can motivate him after that is you better have a shotgun and a dead bird somewhere to get him involved. Whereas Deke was probably a very special dog to me, because he never put a foot wrong. I could get him to do anything. I don't care what it was at any show. I showed it to him one time, he could do it. And so he was pretty special in that regard. So he ended up living in a house with Kathy and I till he passed last year. We had another little lovely female that was Kathy's constant companion named Beretta. She was a great little upland dog. She never hunted a duck in her life, but she was a great quail dog. All these, it's just like having different kids. They all have different personalities, and they all brought little pieces of quality to our entire life. So it'd be hard to say one.
Okay, I got a couple rapid fire questions for you that I try to ask everybody. So the first one is, if there was going to be a movie about your life, who would play you? Who would you want to be you?
Oh, it want to be me?
Yeah.
I don't know. He probably wouldn't do it, but he needs to be Clint Eastwood. There's no doubt about it. Eastwood is an actor that he's a man of few words in all business, and I guess that fits me the closest of any of the personalities.
Where were you on 9/11?
Training a dog, and I was working down exactly where I was, and I was working down a fence, lining a pup, and I had one kennel hand working here at the time, and he was here. He was a student at Ole Miss, and Kathy called me. She was going to school and said, something's happened. I hear it on the radio, and I came up here and turned the TV on, and I knew one thing: I was gone. I didn't know what was going to happen in business, but I was in the Navy at the time. And I said, this is it. So I said, this is going to be a big one. Luckily, I was able to get the business stabilized, and I never did get called up at that particular time, or Wildrose wouldn't exist. If I had to go at the time, there would have been nobody to take it over. I had no redundancy. I had no full-time person to say, hold on to this while I go for 9 months to a year and a half. A lot of my unit was called up later, but not initially. We were the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, and what we did was criminal investigations. And they really didn't need us at the first part of the war, but later they did. And a lot of our guys witnessed a lot of action because we did an interview and interrogation in foreign wars. The NCIS are most of the ones that operate that you see on TV, and we'll talk about it. They're credentialed agents, and they're GS agents. They don't send them into war zones. We were commissioned officers. We're the ones they sent into the war zone. And it took them a while to work up that they had prisoners and people that needed to be interrogated, those kinds of things. And then we did get called up.
Huh.
But initially that was my thought. Oh dear, what am I going to do with this business?
Yeah. Huh. What's been your if you could narrow it down to one thing, what's been your biggest professional accomplishment?
Oh, the development of Wildrose, no doubt. had different careers that I guess were meaningful in some ways, and got some recognition for them, but nothing as much as developing Wildrose off into from a one person, two part-time people to basically a network across the country of kennels each one of those kennels, the staff has been trained by me, developed by me, practices the practices. So in business, if you can re-engineer yourself and pass it on to the next generation, that's an important thing to do. So many dog kennels, for instance, don't survive after the principal is either incapacitated or dies. It ends. And that was one of the things I didn't want. The Wildrose is a brand that's going to continue. It's going to go forward. We've got the business plan to do it. We've got the staffing to do it. So we built in redundancy like they do in the military. If I drop off, nothing happens. They just keep on saying. If one drops off over here, we got people to pull in to North Carolina. If we have an issue over there, we can cross-pollinate trainers. We move people around. We move dogs all the way around. So it's a one kennel concept. That to be clear, we work really hard. And that's what I'm most proud of, is that we have one kennel in various locations. That's what we try to do. And it is all networked by a program that was developed largely by Guy Cameron in Dallas, that we have a priority program that networks the kennels on a database, that every dog has its own portfolio that follows the dog throughout his life. So if the puppy is born here and he may be trained in North Carolina, they just pull that portfolio up. Then they download that material. He may come to Colorado with me one summer. I can pull up that portfolio, put all his health records in, and put them back on there. So the whole portfolio falls forward. According to the AKC, we're the only kennel in the country that has something like that. And basically, we wrote the program. So those are things I'm most proud of. But personally, I didn't do it. The most pride you get is that you've developed a system and a team that can do it.
Sure. Or this one's a little bit more philosophical, but do you think there's dogs in heaven?
Oh yeah, they got to. It wouldn't be a very fun place without it. And I hear it's a pretty fun place, so they got to have dogs.
Yeah.
Invite your viewers to check us out at uklabs.com. There's lots of free information on there. The first thing that's going to pop up on your screen is you can visit any of the kennels and our retail store just by linking them, and then you can go back and visit another one. Scroll down and you're going to see lots of complimentary videos that we've done for upland, waterfowl, obedience, service companions, adventure, lots of things that you can scroll through and see. There's a really good feature on there with we produce with ProPlan on how to start a pup. You got a new pup. What are you going to do with it? That's where I start the thing off, holding a new pup. Said there's 16 lessons, and the outcome of that, we want an Emmy, and it was run for 1 year on the AKC website. So it's a structured way that you can start your own pup. Any breed will work. So we invite people to join our pack. Subscribe to our Wildrose Journal out online. There comes to you complimentary. Lots of things to register for and see on there complimentary at uklabs.com. And of course, our book, it's available. I think it's in its 12th reprint now. 30% of them are sold abroad. And it's been a real good feature for us. And it is a training manual, but it's a big, thick book. It's got lots of pictures and CAD drawings all in it. But it is a training plan in there if you follow it.
Well, thanks for your time, sir. It's been an absolute pleasure to pick your brain. Thanks for agreeing to do this.
Well, appreciate you having me. Enjoyed it.